Performance evaluation. 2 weeks later, Benton went out for dinner with Carol Patlin, another assistant product manager with whom she had become friends. Patlin had been with Houseworld for 4 years and had moved from finance into marketing, and she knew a lot about company practices and office rumors. She asked Benton if she had received her performance review yet, explaining that it was customary to have one after 3 months on the job. During the evening, she also told Benton that Linton and Scoville were rumored to be having an affair. On September 15th, Benton approached Linton saying, "I've been here for 3 months and understand it's customary to have a review after that time period. I want to know if I'm meeting your expectations and how to work on plans for my development." Linton responded, "If you really want one, I'll sit down with you in a few days and give you a performance review." Again, Benton felt that she was imposing on Linton's time. A week later, Linton took Benton out to lunch in a nearby hotel restaurant and immediately withdrew a small folded piece of paper from her briefcase. She told Benton that she had jotted down some notes about her performance and that she wanted to keep the discussion informal. Linton began by listing Benton's strengths. She commended her on her ability to get along with the staff groups and the marketing department, for learning quickly how the company worked, and for her written communication skills. She said that Benton was doing a nice job, but that there were several areas in which she needed to improve. She then outlined Benton's weaknesses: not taking initiative in structuring projects for herself, a lack of assertiveness in making her opinions known, and being too quiet in meetings with Scoville and the staff groups. She said that she thought Benton was intelligent, but that she lacked confidence. Benton asked for examples of behavior needing improvement, and Linton replied, "When we are in meetings with the ad agency, you barely contribute your opinions. You always qualify your recommendations with, 'I'm not really familiar with.'" Benton listened and nodded and tried not to get defensive, but on the inside she felt disappointed and misunderstood. She explained that she had just been trying to act like a learner. Since she knew that Linton had a close relationship with him, Benton hesitated to say anything negative about Scoville. She cautiously mentioned that Scoville often acted patronizing with her, and that it was difficult to be forceful and assertive around him since she felt he was overbearing. Linton agreed that Scoville's management style left a lot to be desired, but she believed that Benton should be able to get along with him. She pointed out that she never had any problems with Scoville herself. Benton agreed to work on the areas identified by her boss and asked Linton to define some responsibilities for her that would be separate from Scoville's. Linton agreed. After the lunch, Benton was acutely upset that her superior had failed to recognize some of her major strengths: analytical skills, intellectual capacity, and organizational abilities. She was disturbed by Linton's feedback that she was unassertive and lacking in initiative. Benton believed that Linton's criticisms accurately described her behavior at Houseworld, but they were inconsistent with what Benton felt her true self to be. On the one hand, Benton felt that Linton had not given her the opportunity to demonstrate her usually assertive personality. On the other hand, Benton blamed herself for not being true to her own character. Benton also felt that she had faced conflicting messages from the very beginning. She was warned not to act like an arrogant MBA, and she was faulted for not being assertive enough. Realizing that her future at the company might be in jeopardy, Benton vowed to act more like herself, but was still doubtful about what kinds of projects she could initiate. Another run-in with Scoville. 10 days after her lunch with Linton, Benton was deeply embroiled in an analysis of pure and fresh pricing. She stepped into Scoville's office to show him her analysis and recommendations. He seemed impressed, and Benton, pleased, returned to her desk to complete the profit calculations. A few minutes later, however, Scoville appeared and asked her how she had arrived at her figures. When Benton displayed her spreadsheet, Scoville began challenging her assumptions. Frustrated with his attitude, Benton muttered, "That's ridiculous." Then Scoville yelled in a voice audible across the entire floor, "You arrogant MBAs are all alike. You think you know everything. You're so cocky. When you've been around for a while, you'll see that your analysis is wrong." Deciding not to come down to his level by yelling back, Benton retorted that she was trying to express her point of view. Fuming, she finally pronounced, "Oh, forget it and just get out of here." Benton was furious, and she also felt embarrassed and humiliated. "I hate it here," she thought. "I want to leave. I don't need to put up with this." Another associate, a woman that Benton was not particularly fond of, saw Benton's distraught face and suggested that they go to the conference room to talk. Benton, who until now had volunteered very little about her problems with Scoville and Linton, spilled out her frustrations. "I'm so sick of trying to get along with that creep. He is so condescending and makes me feel like an idiot. Nothing I've tried works with him." Benton's colleague agreed and remarked that many of the other product management staff members felt similarly about Scoville. She advised Benton to ignore him and just get through your time with him. She then asked Benton whether Linton had helped in any way. "She's told us to work things out ourselves," Benton replied. "I think she has just been copping out." After this conversation, Benton returned to her desk only to be called into Linton's office a few hours later. Word of the confrontation had gotten around, Linton informed Benton, and several people had complained about Scoville's destructive behavior and his condescending treatment of Benton. Linton said once more that she could not understand Benton's problems with Scoville. "Ron is one of my best friends. I know others don't like him, but I think he is misunderstood and that he has a heart of gold." Linton promised again that she would try to assign them discrete projects, but insisted that they try to get along with each other. Benton nodded her head, but believed that Linton would do nothing to make the relationship any better. On her way back to her desk, Benton considered the fact that getting along with Scoville was probably essential to her success on the brand. While Scoville's style was abhorrent, Benton felt he was indeed open to feedback, and there had been occasions when he had come across as a decent, even warm, person. Benton returned to Scoville's cubicle and suggested that they meet after work. Over drinks, Scoville apologized for hurting Benton's feelings and talked about his frustration with the organization and the fact that he had not been promoted yet. They agreed that they would try to cooperate. Soul-searching. While Scoville and Benton managed to avoid confrontation after that, Benton still felt overshadowed. After the yelling incident, several of the other associates and assistants in Hamster Haven rallied to Benton's support. The general advice she received was to hang in there, and they reminded her that Pure and Fresh was only a temporary assignment. Benton's peers agreed that Scoville couldn't get along with anyone, and they viewed Linton as an excellent performer with a great track record of brand successes, but a poor trainer and manager of people. An assistant product manager who had worked for Linton the previous year told Benton that Linton had done a terrible job training him. He said he was now working double time trying to make up for what he should have learned in his first position. This new information was disconcerting to Benton. Benton appreciated the camaraderie and support from her peers, but her concerns about her future with Houseworld were not alleviated. She still felt that her talents and training were not being fully utilized. Benton continued to be troubled by what she considered Linton's lack of interest in her development. It seemed clear to Benton that her mind was preoccupied with other matters. Concerned that her slow start at Houseworld would negatively affect her prospects for promotion, she considered approaching Vernon to ask him to switch her to another brand. But as far as Benton knew, no assistant product manager had ever done this at Houseworld. She was reluctant to alienate not only her superiors, but possibly her peers as well, by making such an unusual request. Benton was also tempted to call Scott Kingston, the president of Right Away Stores, to inform him that she had made a mistake in turning down his attractive offer. Although Kingston had been angry at Benton's rejection of his offer, Benton thought that if she was absolutely serious about leaving Houseworld, she could call him. A former Right Away colleague had told Benton that Kingston still spoke highly of Benton's contribution to the organization.